Good morning, guys, or afternoon if you're watching this later. So today's gonna be the first Q&A for the group. Now I'm gonna answer 3 different questions today. There were 3 questions asked on the group Q&A. And I'm gonna try to, depending on how responsive people are, how much people seem to like this or need this within the group, and depending on how I feel, most importantly, how much I feel like it's helping people kind of get to, the levels that I want them to get to or see success with online arbitrage or reselling, I will obviously continue to do these weekly if they're helping and they meet all those parameters, right? But for right now, we're just gonna do a couple in the coming weeks to kind of test it out, see if people like it, see if it helps, and if it does, it will become a more permanent thing, okay? So if you have a question for next week's Q&A in video format, obviously I'm very responsive in the group. A lot of other people are very responsive in the group, and thank you guys for that. It's the fact that we're building a community and kind of, a little bit more, every single time someone gets into the course, another person comes into the group, so we can all, it allows more people to kind of help each other and answer each other's questions, right? It becomes more valuable for all of us that way. But obviously I'm responsive, other people are responsive, so if you have a question, you can drop that in the group at any point in time, and somebody, if it's not me specifically, if I don't see it right away, somebody will definitely respond to it and help you out, okay? Very, very valuable resource. So I'm also going to be introducing, like I said, these weekly Q&As, which I also think will help kind of answer in video format, which allows me to go a little bit more in depth, because to actually type out a long-winded response, even if it's like a couple paragraphs, takes me a while, right? Whereas I can kind of just spit off and literally read a question and answer it in a minute or two in a video format, a lot more in depth and a lot easier. So it's more beneficial for everybody, and especially the person asking the question and myself included. So with that being said, let's just jump into the questions here. Now, Charles asks, you're always thinking forward. Here are a few questions I have. First and foremost, which vendor do you recommend for buying boxes and shipping supplies in bulk, specifically for non-FBA items, okay? Because obviously if you're shipping into FBA, you don't need to worry about boxes because Amazon will package things for you, right? Well, you ship a bunch of things in the one box when you ship it into FBA, but then they take them all out individually, store them on their shelves, and then ship them out for you individually in their own boxes, right? So obviously he's talking about non-FBA. So for me specifically, I don't actually order anything from like vendors or suppliers for boxes. You can, although it's going to, the issue with that is it's going to be relatively expensive compared to the things that I'm going to suggest next, as well as the fact that you're only going to be able to order in bulk to get a good price, and then you're going to be stuck to that box dimension, which if you're shipping out, or you don't have replenishables, or you're shipping out things that have different sizes, is not the way that you want to go. So I would probably recommend don't look at vendors, don't look at suppliers for boxes specifically. If you're selling on eBay, a great way to do that if you have a store is to get eBay boxes, right? If you're selling on Poshmark, then a great way to do that is getting free USPS boxes, because everything on Poshmark ships through the post office via USPS.com, and there's a video in the course showing you how to get free shipping supplies. I don't remember if that's in the Poshmark tips module or if it's in the general reselling tips module, but it's in there. Go search for it. It will outline how to get free boxes from the post office for you. So if you're shipping from eBay, get eBay boxes. They cost a little bit of money, but you can get a bunch of different things, or you can use what I'm about to say next. If you're shipping from Poshmark, go to USPS, get a bunch of different sizes of boxes. I personally like the padded flat rate envelopes. It fits most things and it protects your items, but there's also smaller boxes there, bigger boxes there, a number of things, okay? Or you can also do what I do, which is if you're ordering things from Amazon just for you personally, or if you're ordering things from Amazon for cashback products or coupon products or books from Amazon or books from anywhere, right? What's gonna happen is you're going to get a box, or ordering anything, right? You're gonna get a box with that actual delivery, right? So break your boxes down and save them. If you actually go to the shipping into FBA tutorial in the course, you can see all the boxes that I have, and that's just one of the boxes full of boxes that I have, right? I have at least 2 or 3 of those, if not 4 of those boxes in my basement where I actually ship out. And so I save them all, because that way I have a number of boxes for free. So I'm increasing my profit margins by not spending money on boxes when I'm actually shipping stuff out for myself. So I'm saving them all. On top of that, I'm saving all of them. So I have a bunch of different kind of dimensions, both big and small, because I think the smallest ones you can get are like 10 inches by like 7 inches by 3 inches, right? So they kind of look like this, and then they're like they're kind of little boxes. So those are perfect. perfect. And then you can also save a lot of the bubble tape and the bubble mailers that come with that. So, you know, you can kind of put something small into those small boxes and then protect it with like the bubble or the poly bags or whatever they're called, like the little air pocket things. I don't know the term, but I know it's pretty obvious to understand what I'm saying, right? So that's what I would recommend for those. Save your boxes from everywhere that you order, but especially Amazon, and then reuse those, okay? Just make sure that if you're shipping out, you know, I don't recommend necessarily doing it for Poshmark or Mercari, but you can. If you're shipping out with Amazon FBA, you can do that as well. Although I would recommend that you probably use the poly mailers that I also recommend, or, you know, something along those lines, right? You can get padded poly mailers. You can also get very, very cheap poly mailers. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's either in the very, very beginning of the course, like the 4th or 5th lecture, where I actually go over things that you need. Excuse me, actually, it's the second, let me check really fast while I'm kind of saying it. It's the second module now. I don't know, I'm holding up a 1. It's the second module now in Online Arbitrage Pro 5.0. I actually made that an entirely new module for new students. So let me check really fast to make sure. It is, yeah, so module 2, I think the second lecture, if not the first lecture in module 2. So the supplies that will help you start and scale your reselling business, I kind of touch on those things, but those poly mailers are exactly what I use, right? Now, if you need to kind of, you know, pad it and protect it, you can use the free USPS padded mailers and wrap your item in there and then put it in a poly mailer. I do that a lot. Obviously, you don't want to advertise that you're doing that, because the post office won't like that you're using that as like a free poly mailer or a padded, you know, envelope thing. But that's kind of how I approach it. So check that out. That's what I do. Now, if you're stuck on buying boxes specifically, what I'd recommend that you do is, I'm going to use this as an example of a box, because I don't actually have any boxes here because I don't ship out from my apartment, right? So this is like a square, and this thing's freaking incredible, by the way. It's a kind of a productivity hack. So whenever I need to get some deep work done, I literally just put my phone in here, I lock it, bam, I lock it for an hour, maybe 2 hours, whatever, and then I can't touch my phone. I'm gonna make a video on this on YouTube pretty soon, because I'm pretty stoked about it and it's awesome. Little productivity hack for you there. But let's pretend that this is a box, because it's the closest thing that I have to explain this right here, right? So let's say hypothetically that, you know, maybe you're shipping out something that's small like a mouse, right? What you can do is you can put those little bubble things in there to protect it and then jam pack it tightly, or you can just resize your box. So if you do that, if you need to know how to resize a box, all you really need to do is get a box cutter, and let's say that like the things like up to here in the box, right? You just take a box cutter on all the corners, cut from there all the way up to the top, from there all the way up to the top, from there all the way up to the top, etc. on all sides, right? And then you fold those in and you tape the box shut so it's tighter, and it protects your inventory a little bit easier. So resize boxes, poly mailers, you know, check out USPS.com for free padded mailers and free boxes. That's the way that I'd recommend that you go with that. Okay, so if he has other questions, let's move on to the next part of it. So for non-FBA, I've been struggling with having boxes on hand fulfill the product I'm selling. Smaller like EE and toys, any particular box dimensions you think are versatile. I find that I'm using boxes that are way too big for what I'm shipping. Any tips on best practice for knowing in advance which shipping box dimensions? So yeah, just pretty much the same, different question, but very, very similar. I would just use the tightest that you can possibly make it. You want to give yourself as many potential boxes as possible to ship out. So everything that I said in that first answer still rings true. And then either use like the bubble things that protect your inventory, and you'll get a lot of those in Amazon packages if you're ordering that way. Save them all. Or you can obviously just order that stuff if you want. It's probably relatively cheap. I think I used to order that stuff for my private label product a long time ago on Amazon, and you can get like 6 feet rolls of it for like 10 bucks. So that's another option. Check Amazon. It's very, very cheap for it. I remember doing it. If you want to go that route, if not, just save them, right? And then either protect your inventory that way, or resize the box like I just showed you so that it's tight in there and it's protected, and you should be good to go, okay? Number 3 that he's asking is, do I pre-order items from EE? If so, what's my philosophy on finding pre-order items? So I don't pre-order anything from EE or pre-order anything or like back order anything from EE or any of the wholesale companies, what I actually do is I look for things that are in inventory, okay? I know people that do that and kind of want to be first to market, so they'll pre-order something as soon as it goes live or it's like hot off the truck, right? I don't personally do that. I find success avoiding that in future. So because I don't like to, judge a product ahead of time and then buy into it, especially with wholesale when you're buying a lot of products in bulk for that one listing, because I'm judging the listing at that current time. I have no idea. I can assume, but I have no idea what's going to happen to that product listing, a couple weeks from now, or even a month or two when that item fully comes in stock. So no, I don't buy anything pre-order from EE or any of the wholesale companies, and I don't really recommend that you do, although I know other people that do it and have success with it, but I'm not into kind of guessing or assuming. I want to be sure, right? I'm putting my money into this business. I want to make sure that the money comes back within ROI. So that's kind of my approach, okay? So he's saying that he's been using Scan Unlimited, but he's finding the items that he wants are usually out of stock. So in that aspect, that's going to happen from time to time. You just need to keep getting updated product catalogs from EE, but not just product catalogs from EE. I literally redid the entire wholesale module. So not only if you go to the list in the very beginning, I added a number of other sites there. It used to be like, I don't know, we'll say 50 to 70. It's probably now 70 to 100. So there's other sites that I've added that you can apply to and then obviously get product catalogs from them. So you don't just want to limit yourself to EE. You want to do it with a bunch of them, right? Because all of those are vetted suppliers that you can order from. Get a product catalog from them. If they do that, a lot of them will, some of them won't, like BBCW and some others, but the majority of them, probably 95% if not more, will give you a product catalog that's itemized with UPCs or ASINs. So apply to more places, apply those or get those product catalogs, and then put more product catalogs in the software and go about it that way. Don't just limit yourself to EE, okay? So that's my answer for that. Number 4, he says, any tips on how to manage sales tax via Seller Central platform? I know Amazon withholds it for certain states. Are there any specific sales tax settings we need to be aware of? I just realized that I needed to include sales tax on items I sell here in Florida. I know each state is different. Yeah, so this is a question I get asked a lot, and be perfectly transparent with you, it depends state to state, right? So for me in PA, I'm pretty sure that they just collect all the sales tax for me, and then for each state that I'm selling items in. But for you specifically, it might depend on your state specifically. You said you're in Florida. I'm not exactly sure how Amazon collects sales tax for Florida, so you're gonna have to do a little bit of research and figure out how that applies to you. But a quick Google search on that should yield you answers. And it's my understanding that for you, and keep in mind, do a Google search, verify this, right? But it's my understanding that they'll probably collect in your situation, even if they don't collect it on all of them, they'll collect it on a number of them, and then you just have to go into the back end of Seller Central and make sure that you're collecting sales tax for those other states. Again, a quick Google search or a quick YouTube video should yield you that result. I'm sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's just full transparency. For me, I don't really collect it because Amazon collects it for me, okay? So does Amazon shipping give us the best rates compared to using stamps.com? Any suggestions on keeping shipping costs to a minimum? So now that FBA is kind of opening back up, it's not fully open back up, but they've been receiving a lot of my, all of my books. They've been receiving some of my retail products. So I'm assuming that they're going to open up within the next week or two. And I'm assuming that also they're kind of open, but they're just not publicly advertising it yet because they've been receiving some of my retail products from retail websites, right? So I know that they're open not just for books. So in that aspect, I would say first answer is just ship everything to FBA. That's what I'd recommend anyway. But if you still are merchant fulfilling or you still want to merchant fulfill, then use pirateship.com. So pirateship.com will literally make sure that you have the best shipping price, okay? So moving on to the next one. So JH says, does Walmart, Target, accept international credit cards? I'm honestly not sure about that. I would look at their privacy policy. I would assume so. If not, you can use a gift card potentially. You can just buy from wherever you are and use a gift card, but I would assume that they are because I'm sure that they have international customers. If not, just use something that's international, like a Visa potentially. That's how I'd recommend going that, but I would assume so. So just look into their privacy policy or how that actually works in their terms of service, but I would assume so. Then you said, what are the requirements to purchase online? Do we need to get a US credit card? If so, how does that work? What about the address? Hope you have answers. So Yeah, again, all those questions are things that can be answered if you just do a little bit of research on the websites. But I would assume that, yeah, they accept international credit cards. If they don't, use a gift card, buy a gift card for yourself, and then use that gift card. But I would assume that they do. Again, if you're ordering from like Walmart.com, Target.com, like within the US, then what I recommend for that business model, because every business model is different, is order to a prep center, okay? So if you're ordering from like for Walmart, first of all, I would recommend that business model is probably not the way that you want to go if you live outside the US and you plan on selling on the US marketplace, okay? I would recommend going with books or wholesale or something more scalable that you can either order directly into FBA, like wholesale or liquidation, or you can use a prep center, because with books, your margins are so high and it's a very, very, very small amount of inventory. So your prep center fees are going to be super minimal as well, right? So I'd recommend going that way. But if you're stuck and you want to go with the retail website module or like the scanning software like Source Mogul and buy from those places, again, just use a prep center. Just understand that your margins are going to be super, super slim, because retail site margins are already relatively small in most cases, not all of them. Some cases they're pretty good, but other cases, and generally speaking, they're a little bit smaller than like books, or, you know, wholesale can be a little small too. But the whole thing I'm saying there is probably avoid that business model if you're outside the US and you plan on selling back on Amazon US, or just use a prep center. Just understand that there's going to be fees and it's going to cut into your margins. So finally, Richard says, this is a good idea, and he's referring to the weekly Q&As here, but I think twice a month would be better. So bi-weekly, I guess. I don't like when something is up for just a few weeks or a month, then dies quickly. It would benefit us only if the Q&A is consistent, which obviously so I remember reading this because I just read this recently. It just popped up actually right about as I was about to record this. So I appreciate the feedback, Richard. It's definitely something that I'm still kind of weighing and figuring out how many I'm going to plan on doing. Right now, I think the best way to go forward personally is weekly. So if everybody likes it and if it seems to be helping people, I will be doing it consistently every single week, right? I think it's going to help a lot of the students out because I get a lot of questions, right? So if it's bi-weekly or like monthly potentially, it's going to build up a long questionnaire, and then like it's going to take me a long, long time to do those Q&As. We got kind of lucked out here with only 3 questions. Not that it's lucky, but what I'm saying is like, usually it's going to be a lot more than 3 questions, I would assume. We'll see how it goes. So, kind of want to tackle them weekly. I think that's going to work a little bit better. Then he says, secondly, if you can post them at the end of the course content so that we can refer to them when we need to. My question, okay, so he has a question after this. So I'm not going to post them to the end of the course because I kind of got out of hand with that in the first 3 versions. 4.0, I kind of, scaled it back a little bit, but the course kind of built out along, just like a lot, right? And because of that, it was like so many videos and too many videos, and it was overwhelming to consume. So I'm actually going to upload these videos to this group, and I will put them, if you go over to the left, of the actual group and you click on videos, there's a videos tab there where I'm going to upload all these videos, right? And then I will actually, if I remember, I'm going to try to remember, I'll put them in an album for Facebook group Q&As, right? So then you can watch them all there. So that way you can still watch them all for reference if you want to and you want to go back and watch them all, but it's not kind of tying it up, because if we're doing them weekly or even bi-weekly, it's going to add a lot of content and a lot of hours to the back end of the course. And the whole point with 4.0 and 5.0 was to make it a little bit more streamlined and compact so that you get all the information. Don't get me wrong, like the Q&As are going to help you, but I want to put them in the Facebook group and not necessarily the course, because I want to keep it compact and as streamlined as possible so that you get the best results in the shortest time period possible. I used to think before 4.0 and 5.0 that like the longer the course, the better, and I don't believe that anymore. So I'm going to put them in the Facebook group so you can still access them. Go to videos on the left, go to the albums, and you'll be able to watch them all there. Obviously this one and all future ones there when I release them. So Richard has a question. Let me get another sip of coffee. So good. Richard has a question and he says, my question is for Amazon. We can open a business account on Amazon to sell on the platform. So there's personal and business, obviously, right? But then his question is, can we open a business account for eBay, Mercari, and Poshmark to sell on those platforms? So Mercari and Poshmark, you can't. Your normal selling account is just your normal selling account. It's not business or personal. With eBay, you can open up a normal eBay account, or you can open up a store, okay? So I don't personally, it depends on how much you're scaling up eBay. I personally think eBay is a little bit more for like resellers that, you know, I use it as like a tool, right? I don't build my entire business on eBay. If you plan to do that and you plan to do all your fulfillment on site on somewhere like eBay, and you plan to have like thousands of pieces of inventory, then you might want to look into opening up like a store on eBay. But for the most part, for the majority of people, you're going to get the most bang for your buck, because it's going to be a lot less to manage. Your expenses are going to be a lot lower because you're going to have to pay a high monthly fee for all your products. Assuming, and that works for a lot of people if you're selling a lot of products on eBay. But for 98% of people that are watching this or taking the course, you're probably better off just sticking with a normal eBay seller account. So those are all the questions for today. I hope that they helped. Guys, remember, either if you can comment on this video, comment below this video, and I will add that to the Q&A for next week. Also, I'll try to remember to make a post next week asking for more questions on that week's Q&A, but let me know your comments on this too. If you don't have a question specifically, comment below. If you didn't see the original post that kind of touched on this, and let me know your thoughts on weekly Q&As, what you think, whether you think you'll like them, whether you think they'll help, and whether you'd like to see more of these going forward.